We're going to move now to the final question today. Deputy Catherine Connolly, you have 30 seconds to introduce.
Could the Minister confirm whether the promised review of the Vision for Change has begun, when it will be completed, the terms of reference, the composition of the review and so on, please?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank the Deputy for her question. Vision for Change has guided national mental health policy over the past 10 years, and as you've rightly said, its term has come to an end. The Department published a request for tender last month that was to invite parties interested in undertaking a review of a Vision for Change to express an interest in doing so. The Department's requirements are for experts to review, to analyse national and international evidence and best practice in the development and delivery of mental health services. The review should also identify sites of best practice, outlining reasoning and identifying how these models can apply to the Irish context. The review is also expected to assess the current delivery of mental health services in Ireland, having regard to international evidence and the implementation of a Vision for Change. It is envisaged that the review will be completed later this year. The review will provide evidence to determine the policy direction for a revised or revision of a Vision for Change, and it will have regard to both human rights and health and wellbeing objectives. As I said to Deputy Wallace earlier, I think we need to move away from specifically focusing on mental illness. When the review is completed, the Department will examine the output and will then decide on the need for a monitoring group to oversee any required policy changes. Just in relation to the actual the contract itself, it will be awarded on the basis of the most economically advantageous tender. It will be split into two sections. 50% of it will be based on cost, a further 30% will be based on the quality of proposed methodology, and 20% demonstrated ability by way of previous experience on the part of the tenderer to carry out the work. So I would hope that we would have the review finalised at the end of the year. The next step after that would be to see whether we need an oversight group to implement the changes that are then being recommended. Thank you.
Deputy Connolly.
Thank you, Minister. I welcome the fact that we've progressed to getting a time frame. I'm very disappointed that it's going to take till the end of the year. The Vision for Change ran out in January. The 10 years were up. Part of that Vision for Change was an independent monitoring commission which set for 2 periods, 6 until 9 and 9 until 12. That hasn't set. And could you please confirm whether it will sit in the meantime while we're waiting for the review to be completed? The Vision for Change was absolutely visionary 10 years ago. It remains visionary. The difficulty is it has never been implemented. And because they foresaw that governments would not implement it, that's why they specifically asked, A, for a review to be carried out after 10 years to see how effective it was, but more importantly, to have an independent monitoring group running simultaneously with it to monitor whether it was implemented or not. So can you please confirm the situation in relation to the independent monitoring group?
Thank you, Deputy Minister McEntee.
Thank you. Can I agree with the Deputy? I suppose progress, while slower than has initially been anticipated, continues to be made in implementing the report's recommendations, and as you've rightly pointed out, the vision has not changed, and while this review is currently underway, we are continuing to implement it. If you look at the fact that in recent years the Government has provided an additional 160 million of ring-fence funding for mental health from 2012 to 2016, that has progressed the implementation of various different degrees of the actual document. The independent group or the committee that you talk about, while it is currently not set up at the moment, this is a question that I have been raising, and it is something that I would like to consider once the review is finalised at the end of the year. I think we do need to take that time, and while it might seem like a long time, it is something that maybe I could come back to the Deputy on, depending on the recommendations. But I do believe that we need some form of an oversight committee to put in place possibly a timeline to make sure that we are progressing at an adequate stage.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister, Deputy.
I welcome what you're saying, but slow and inconsistent, that was the opinion of the Mental Health Commission. Slow and inconsistent was the finding of the independent monitoring group, and the last time it set was 2012, and you stand up and tell me what money has gone into it. I welcome that, but there's no independent group to tell us how effectively it's been used, whether it's been used at all in the most efficient way possible, and that was all anticipated, and now we're going forward with another review that's going to take the whole year. To me, it's simply unacceptable. All of this was laid down in 2006, and even then that wasn't in a vacuum. That was based on a report that went back to 1986 1984, planning for the future. So it's extraordinary that we now find ourselves in 2016 and the review group, the tender has only gone out and it won't be ready till the end of the year. And in the meantime, you can't tell me whether an independent monitoring group will be set up to monitor what's happened to date, which was part of the recommendation. And all of that said that plans should be taken together, not little pieces out of it.
Thank you, Deputy. Do you wish to make a quick reply?
I suppose to reiterate, it is my own view and my own opinion that we should have some form of an oversight committee. Again, it is my view and my opinion that while we are undertaking the review and while it may seem like a long time, I think if we are to wait until the end of the year to implement that committee, that would actually have oversight of what we've implemented to date, but also what recommendations are being put in place by the actual group or the review committee itself. You know, I think we need to continue to focus on moving towards a more community-based environment for our mental health services. And I suppose from my own part, working with the Mental Health Review Commission, working with a lot of the other organisations that have provided a lot of oversight on this and have rightly pointed out where we are failing, where we are not failing and where we need to improve on. I think it's important that I continue to work with them in that regard. But again, it is my own view, my own opinion, that once the review is completed, that there would be some form of an oversight committee or board.
Thank you, Minister.